Very good evening, you're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Stephen Machado.
And I am Hashini Patirano. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
IMF and Sri Lanka reach staff-level agreement on fifth review. Optimistic stance on debt sustainability. Electricity sector reform is essential to ease the public's burden. Who caused a loss of 500 billion rupees to the Ceylon Electricity Board between 2014 and 2022? Public Security Secretary goes to CID over false news, claiming he made a statement at High Posts Committee regarding the Easter Sunday attacks. Samantha Vidyaratna files complaint with Cyber Crimes Unit over alleged false statement by Chamara Sampath. Government says provincial council election will be held end of next year.
On to your top story for tonight. IMF staff and the Sri Lankan authorities have reached staff-level agreement on economic policies to conclude the fifth review of Sri Lanka's reform program, supported by the IMF's Extended Fund Facility. Once the review is approved by the IMF Executive Board, Sri Lanka will have access to about $347 million in financing.
Now with this, the total IMF financing support disbursed under the arrangement is about $2.04 billion. Now the IMF mission chief for Sri Lanka said that in terms of debt sustainability, under present conditions, debt will be sustainable on a forward-looking basis.
Looking ahead, it remains essential that the government continues revenue mobilization efforts and prudent budget execution. So to this end, the 2026 budget should be in line with program parameters. This requires sustained efforts to improve tax compliance, broaden the tax base, and strengthen the tax exemption frameworks. Cost recovery, electricity pricing, and SOE governance reforms remain key to contain fiscal risks. On the debt restructuring front, we encourage the authorities to ensure Sri Lankan Airlines debt restructuring respects the debt targets and quickly finalize remaining agreements with the remaining official creditors. So on the SO reforms, we are heartened by the progress being done so far. We are in close communication with the government on the shape of the new legislation, and we are discussing with them the parameters of that and how it should come to fruition.
You also mentioned that debt restructuring is almost complete with the bilateral agreements that have been reached. But can you confirm whether Sri Lanka's debt is now sustainable, given that 2028 is being considered as the period that Sri Lanka will start repaying its debt?
On the debt restructuring, that's also a very important issue. From the beginning, that has been one of the cornerstones of the program. How would the program stand on its feet and how would Sri Lanka come back? As you all know, and you have heard me say before, debt restructuring is nearly complete. Obviously, the Eurobond exchange was completed successfully in December of 2024, almost a year ago, and several bilateral agreements, loan agreements, have been signed so far, Japan, India, and others as well. So, of the $28 billion of external debt that we have under the perimeter, now we have only $500 million left in terms of which the restructuring agreements. The finalization, the execution of the debt restructuring agreements is key. But alongside that, there needs to be continued fiscal prudence, ongoing macroeconomic reforms, and maintaining fiscal sustainability and debt sustainability. All these go hand in hand. Fixing the debt stock is important, but also making sure that the flow that fits into the debt stock is just as important. And I mentioned that earlier in my opening remarks, having a prudent debt management, having the PDMO being up and running and being operational is also very important. In terms of debt sustainability, Under all these conditions, debt will be sustainable on a forward-looking basis.
Despite signs of economic recovery, poverty levels in Sri Lanka remain higher than pre-crisis levels, according to Martha Walter-Mikhael, the IMF resident representative in Colombo. Speaking on the sidelines of the IMF's fifth program review, Walter-Mikhael emphasized that protecting the poor and vulnerable remains a core pillar of the fund's engagement with Sri Lanka.
Poverty levels are very high. Looking at the latest estimates published by the World Bank, we do see that although the economy is recovering, the levels of poverty are actually higher than the pre-crisis period. So we still want to see a downward trend going forward. So in the context of the IMF program, protecting the poor and vulnerable is a core pillar, and in practice what this means is that the program includes what we call a floor on social spending. This means that the government needs to spend the minimum amount to protect the poor and vulnerable, and this is a target that we assess on a quarterly basis, whether it is met or not. I think one thing that's important to flag is that all the structural reforms that the authorities are implementing, are pushing forward with, are also expected in the medium to long term to trickle to the rest of the economy. So to bring down poverty rates, you really want to accelerate economic growth.
The International Monetary Fund has emphasized that the restructuring of the Ceylon Electricity Board is a critical step toward enhancing transparency and efficiency in Sri Lanka's energy sector, while also reducing the financial burden on taxpayers. Now, speaking during the ongoing review of Sri Lanka's Extended Fund Facility Program, IMF Mission Chief Evan Papageorgiou reiterated that the reform is essential to ensure that the electricity sector operates on commercial principles and that it no longer becomes a fiscal liability for the state.
Obviously, yes, that is a very important development. We pay close attention to the developments around the unbundling of CEB and the evolution that the energy sector is going to undergo in 2026 and beyond. Obviously, it's a very crucial reform that is meant to bring more transparency and a more efficient function of the electricity sector. Of course, as with any reform and any change, there is a lot of details need to be ironed out and to be clarified. Implementation is very important, especially on such an important and systemic sector such as electricity in any country, but also in Sri Lanka. So, generally speaking, for our program, we tend to emphasize the cost recovery electricity pricing for the utility, for the CEB and its successor companies. This is one of the building blocks of the EFF program. It ensures that on a forward-looking basis, CEB or its successor company is not incurring financial losses. And by that, we also mean that this does not become a liability to the taxpayer and to the state. Now, maintaining cost recovery electricity pricing is a continuous structural benchmark under our program, which means that we have a continuous conditionality under the requirements that we have. It is paramount then that containing fiscal risks and supporting long-term economic stability comes hand in hand with this. And this also ensures that the electricity company operates on commercial grounds, much like any private company would, and it makes sound and operationally good financial good decisions. Beyond that, I would say that stable and predictable electricity tariffs and the appropriate setting of these processes is very important because it paves the way toward lowering electricity prices for everybody and benefiting the economy as a whole. So for the fifth review that we are in currently, we have a continuous structural benchmark to evaluate the electricity tariff submission by the CEB to the PUCSO in October, which we understand will come out soon. And we will also assess in the next few weeks, in the next few months, the end November structural benchmark we had set at the time of the fourth review with respect to reviewing the electricity tariff methodology. So
After Sri Lanka's economy was plunged into an abyss where the country's debt was unsustainable due to woefully poor management, the only path chosen to rescue Sri Lanka's economy was the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. We are currently operating within the economic program developed under the IMF's Extended Fund Facility. A major cause of the economic collapse was the breakdown in the country's energy sector, particularly electricity. The IMF is now stressing the urgent need to reduce the burden that the Ceylon Electricity Board is placing on the public. They emphasize the necessity of stopping theft, corruption, fraud and waste to transform the CEB into a profitable entity and alleviate the burden on the people. Consider the loss incurred by the Ceylon Electricity Board between 2014 and 2022. 594,360 million rupees. Let's look at the breakdown year by year. In 2016, the loss was 14,457 million rupees. In 2017, the loss was 47,581 million rupees. The loss in 2018 was 31,936 million rupees. The loss in 2019, 97,422 million rupees. The loss in 2020, 69,164 million rupees. The loss in 2021, 34,644 million rupees. And the loss in 2022 was 309,248 million rupees. In 2023, the full weight of this loss was abruptly transferred to the nation's people when the electricity tariff was increased by 200%.
Was it the general public that caused the CEB to incur these losses?
If any member of the general public delay the payment of their electricity bills, their connection will be disconnected. The general public settled their bills whenever the prices were increased.
So, how did the CEB incur these massive losses? Shouldn't the people who manage the CEB be held accountable? Who manages the CEB?
A large share of power and responsibility rests with the electrical engineers who hold most of the operational positions. Some have referred to this situation as an electrical engineer mafia. Do you remember the island-wide blackouts?
Do we even know what happened to the investigation reports prepared regarding these island-wide power outages, or if anyone was ever held accountable?
There are numerous examples of mismanagement.
Remember the power cuts in the southern province? Remember when water from the Samanalavawa reservoir was held back for power generation instead of being released to farmlands?
This destroyed acres of crop in areas like Ambilipitia, Hambantota, Angunukola Palasa and Suryavawa. What was the ultimate outcome of these actions? The CEB resorted to expensive, unnecessary emergency purchases from private power plants.
What was revealed in the end?
The inability to string a wire across a mere 150-meter plot of land on the 150-kilometer long Pulpitia Hambantota transmission line. It was said that legal action by the landowner in Ratnapura, Siripagama, had prevented the work for years. The public still doesn't know the full amount paid to private power plants for the costly, unscheduled electricity purchased during that time.
Following revelations came to light at a recent Committee on Public Enterprises hearing.
They gave us an extra half hour, not providing power, but by cutting power for an extra half hour to the south every day, unlike other areas. But the work to connect those two grids wasn't done, was it?
කනෙක්ට් කරන වැඩේ කරේ නෑනේ. මෙහෙම ලයින් එකක් කරගෙන යනකොට කවුරුර ගිහලා නඩුවක් දැම්මම ඒ නඩුවේ තීන්දුව ස්ටේ ඕඩර් එකක් ආවම ඊට විරුද්ධව අපිට කවුද නඩු දැම්මේ? දැන් හිමියා තමයි නඩු දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒවත් අක්කොඩේ යන්න තිබ්බ ලයින් එකයි. ඒක සෑහෙන කාලයක් හැදුණා ලයින් එක අපි හිතමු අවුරුදු 3න් විතර කරන්න තිබ්බා. දැන් ওই ලයින් එකට මොකක්ද උනේ කියන්නේ? නඩුවක් තිබුණාද ඒකට? ඔව්.
කොහෙද තියෙන නඩුව?
කේස් එක නම් මට මතක නෑ ඒක.
අපිට වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙන නඩුවක් නේ විරෝධතාවයක් කියන මේ මීටර 150ක් විතර කොටසක්.
අඩුවක් තියෙනකොට අපිට බෑනේ එහෙම කරන්න කියලා තමයි කිව්වේ. ඒ නිසා මේක සීරියස් සභාවක් මේක විහිළුවට ගන්න බෑ. නඩුවක්ද විරෝධතාවක්ද තිබ්බේ නඩුව කොහෙද?
විරෝධතාවයද නඩුවද කියන්නේ මට
ඒකනේ
ස්පෙસિෆයි කරගන්න බෑ.
දකුණු පළාතටම හරිනේ ලංකාවේ අනිත් තැන් වලට වඩා අපිට පැය භාගයක් වැඩියෙන් හැමදාම කැපුවා. පැය 18මාරක් කැපුවානේ අපිට ලයිට්.
ඔව් ඒක හරි.
එච්චර බරපතල ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙදි මේ මීටර 150ක විතර මේ ගැටලුවට ඔබතුමා දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කිව්වොත් මේ
නෑ ඇත්තටම ඒක ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකේ කරපු ආගෙන් තමයි වඩාත් විස්තර ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ.
The following revelations came to light at a recent COPE hearing.
දැන් ওই මහබැලි කම්ප්ලෙක්ස් එකයි ලක්ෂපානය අතරේ ওই ග්‍රිඩ් එකේ කනෙක්ෂන් එකකට ගෙනාවනේ මේ ඒක මොකක්ද උනේ?
ඒ ලයින් එක දැන් සති දෙකකට කලින් වැඩ අවසන් වුණා. පොල්පිටිය කොත්මලේ. දැන් වෙනිගස් කියලා තියෙන විදුලිය යනවා මේකේ.
ඔක පැත්ත බාරු කරලා ගෙනාවේ නේ?
එනම් එක ලයින් එකක් වැඩ කරනවා. ඉතුරු එක නිවැරදි කරමින් තියෙනවා ඒ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකේ.
ඉතින් මහත්තයෝ කොහොම මේක පැටලෙන්නේ කියන්නකෝ. ඉංජිනේරුවනේ ඔබතුමාලානේ දැන් අපි නෙමෙයි කරන්නේ ඔන්න මං ඇවිල්ලා ඔය ලයින් එකේ එළුවා නම් නේ දැන් ඔබතුමාලාමනේ ඩිසයින් කරා. ඔව් ඩිසයිනර්ස්ලා ඔබතුමාලා. ඒතකොට ඔබතුමාලා දන්නවා මේ පැත්තේ ලක්ෂපාර කම්ප්ලෙක්ස් එකේ ඉඳලා යන එකයි අර පැත්තයි මේ ජොයින්ට් වෙන්නනේ තියෙන්නේ දැන් අතරමැදි මේක ජොයින්ට් කරගන්න නේ. ඉතින් ඒක එනකොට දන්නවනේ මේ පැත්තෙන් එන්නේ මෙහෙමයි මේ පැත්තෙන් ඕක ABC එන එක CAB වෙන්න බෑනේ. කොහොම එහෙම උනේ කියන්නකෝ.
දැන් ලයින් දෙක මාරු වීමක් උනේ.
ඕක නිවැරදි කරන්න කොච්චර වීදම් කරන්නේ? ඔබතුමාට අදහසක් තියෙනවද ඕක නිවැරදි දැන් සරලයි. නෑ මෙහෙමයි හොඳේ. දැන් ඕක කියනකොට හරි සරලයි. හැබැයි ඕක මේ සමාජයක් ඕකට ගෙවනවා. මිනිස් සමාජයක් විදියට මේක ඔබතුමාලා මේ ආයතනයේ තියෙන ගැටලුවට බිඳවනවා. ඒක සරල නෑ. හරිද?
Can the CEB continue to operate like this?
Yes, they can, but the people of Sri Lanka will have to bear this burden forever. The previous government passed an act to divide the CEB into parts and allow for private investment. The current government amended this act to be slightly more favorable to the public. The current plan is to break the CEB into 4 parts and create 6 state-owned enterprises that operate under a private company model. This structure will make it easier to pinpoint exactly where the losses are being incurred. Also, those who manage these companies will be required to operate efficiently and achieve profitability. Competition is also expected to benefit the public with better pricing. However, the CEB Engineers Union is currently disrupting this process with several private demands.
What are the electrical engineers demanding?
They have submitted their demands in writing to both the Ministry Secretary and the Sectoral Oversight Committee of Parliament. They are demanding for high-level positions in the new companies. The structure of these positions must be created as dictated by these engineers themselves, rejecting currently proposed titles like Chief Executive Officer. They say that all chief engineers, electrical engineers and technical sector officers are at risk of being positioned one rank below, and they say that cannot happen. They insist that provincial directors become deputy chief executive officers in the new companies. Essentially, by looking at all of these demands, the same group is demanding to manage the operations of the new companies being created.
Both the non-cooperation and the work to rule campaign are in effect. What happens is that our members refrain from communicating and attending meetings with the ministry officials and the minister. Similarly, we are refraining from communicating or attending meetings with the restructuring office. That is what the current trade union action involves. We are never opposed to restructuring, and we believe restructuring should move forward. We are only challenging the process within the restructuring that we see as wrong. We offer our support in the hope that restructuring will provide solutions to all of these issues.
What happened today?
Today, several electricity trade unions, including the Technical Engineering and Supervisory Association, the Ceylon Electricity Workers Union and the Non-Executive Graduates Association met with the Ministry of Energy at the Parliamentary Complex.
There are certain parties who hold the view that this restructuring should be sabotaged. If these issues can be resolved through discussions, we must definitely get involved in those discussions. Taking only trade union action and seeking answers is, I believe, not appropriate. The minister stated today that a discussion has been granted to the Engineers Union on Saturday. I hope they will attend. We believe that the restructuring process will be successfully taken forward. This is something we have been requesting for 10 or 15 years, and this government is successfully carrying it out. There is no trade union action here. What is actually happening is that a certain group, through their dictatorial past, is trying to preserve their dictatorial rights. They are trying to maintain the CEB as it has been for years, without agreeing to these reforms to protect their dictatorship within the Ceylon Electricity Board.
The CEB that was plunged into a massive debt crisis due to poor management must now emerge from this debt and take a new path. Otherwise, a small group will continue to reap maximum benefits while the general public bears the burden of perpetually increasing electricity tariffs.
If these individuals are appointed to the top posts in the new companies as they demand, will the burden on the public truly be lightened?
It's crucial to remember that the International Monetary Fund is watching.
Can the country afford to let private self-interest push the nation further into crisis?
Sri Lanka's debt deal journey has been classified as among the most complex. This is revealed in the IMF's latest stock-taking report.
Sri Lanka's arduous journey through sovereign debt restructuring has reached a critical juncture, with the International Monetary Fund acknowledging significant progress while underscoring persistent complexities that could shape the island nation's economic future. The IMF's latest stock-taking report, presented to its executive board on the 3rd of October 2025, offers a detailed analysis of global sovereign debt restructuring trends since 2020, spotlighting Sri Lanka as one of 8 countries that completed substantial negotiations with private creditors during this period. The report reveals that Sri Lanka's restructuring process, covering both external and domestic debt, has been among the most intricate, reflecting the scale of its fiscal distress and the diversity of its creditor base. The International Monetary Fund's updated 5-year review on the legal framework surrounding private sector-owned sovereign debt revealed a mixed picture of progress and persistent challenges in restructuring processes. Drawing on 8 restructuring cases between 2020 and mid-2025, the report commends the effectiveness of bonded debt frameworks, particularly the use of enhanced collective action clauses, which facilitated high creditor participation rates. Countries such as Suriname, Ghana, Zambia and Ukraine successfully exchanged bonds using varied voting mechanisms. Only Sri Lanka's 2022 bond series remains in litigation. However, the IMF warns that loan-based and collateralized debt restructurings continue to face significant hurdles. The absence of majority voting provisions in loan contracts and fragmented creditor groups have prolonged negotiations, especially in Ghana, Sri Lanka, Zambia and Suriname. These delays have hindered credit rating upgrades and increased costs for debtor nations. The report also flags the growing use of collateralized obligations, where countries pledge assets such as natural resource revenues, state-owned enterprise shares, or even sovereign bonds. These arrangements complicate equitable burden sharing and can obstruct restructuring efforts. Another key concern is the lack of coordination between official and private creditors, which has extended restructuring timelines. Countries like Chad, Ghana, Sri Lanka and Zambia completed bilateral deals before engaging private lenders, pushing the average duration of restructuring from 1.1 years to 2.5 years. The IMF calls for greater debt transparency, improved coordination and a more active facilitation role by the fund itself to reduce delays and risks. While progress has been made, the report concludes that, quote, there is room for further improvements, end quote.
News First with the people.
The police have launched an investigation into individuals spreading false information on social media, claiming that a secretary to the Ministry of Public Security, Ravi Senviratne, made statements in a parliamentary committee regarding the Easter attack. Now, the police media division says that the secretary to the Ministry of Public Security has also instructed his legal team to take appropriate legal action.
Parliamentarian Nizam Karyappar, who is a member of the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts, shared a message after a committee meeting, both on social media and via private WhatsApp messages, claiming that Ravi Senviratne had made a certain statement. Excerpt.
Before the High Posts Committee, in response to my question, Ravi Senviratne stated, quote, We have identified the main conspirator behind the Easter Sunday attack, unquote, during his confirmation as Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security.
End of excerpt. Meanwhile, the police media division issued a statement today noting that a false news report is circulating on social media claiming that Ravi Seniviratne told the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts that the mastermind behind the Easter attack has been identified and is reportedly based in India. In response, the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security clarified in the official statement. Excerpt.
In accordance with the summons of the Parliamentary Committee on High Posts on the 8th of October 2025, I provided responses regarding matters raised during the committee meeting. At no point during that session did he state that India was behind the Easter Sunday attacks. Furthermore, I strongly reject the circulating news report, emphasizing that it is entirely false.
End of excerpt.
The Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security has already lodged a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department regarding the matter. According to that complaint, legal action will be taken against those who spread the false news as well as those who provided the information. I must emphasize that our Secretary in charge of the police, Ravi Seniviratne, never stated that these Sunday attacks were carried out from India. He has categorically denied making any such remark or mentioning any country. The meeting in question was chaired by the Prime Minister, and there was absolutely no discussion concerning India or any other nation.
Minister of Plantation and Community Infrastructure Samantha Vidyaratne today filed a complaint with the Computer Crime Investigation Division of the Criminal Investigation Department. He lodged the complaint regarding a false statement allegedly made yesterday by MP Chamara Sampath Dasanayake, claiming it was covered by parliamentary privileges.
What was the statement made by parliamentarian Chamara Sampath Dasanayake?
What I am saying happened at the Badula Central College. There, a cabinet minister's son was reportedly caught smoking an e-cigarette at the Badula Central College. The Prime Minister had gone to the HRCSL over a deputy minister's daughter not being made a prefect at school. The principal, who was quite helpless, had ended up making that student a prefect. This is the situation by now. Parliamentary privileges are being misused, and the information obtained through these privileges is being distorted and circulated on social media by their political affiliates. What I am saying now is not specifically about my child, but we see that the National People's Power is trying to build a future for children. Based on an incident that occurred in Parliament yesterday, the social media network activists target our child, making a series of entirely false statements. My child studies at the Badula Central College, a particularly prestigious school, and has not yet sat for even the ordinary level examinations. Allegations claiming that the child is involved with drugs were spread, along with various other accusations, creating false news on social media. We see that these actions are politically motivated. We believe it is best to consult the school principal to verify whether such an incident occurred, or the police to check whether the police were involved. Social media reports were spreading that there were attempts to influence the police and suppress reporting. Accordingly, today we have lodged a complaint to obtain information on who created these reports, who released them, and who conducted these social media activities. They can now come forward and clarify the truth regarding facts and falsehoods. If not, they can face the law. That is why we see this happening. However, we want to clearly tell these forces that anyone who comes to destroy the future of children and youth in this country will inevitably be eliminated. No one has the right to destroy the children of this nation.
Meanwhile, the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption recorded a statement from Uday Gammampila today over his recent claim that 323 containers were released from customs without inspection.
ජනවාරි මාසේ සිද්ධ වුණු මේ බාලුම් 323 වංචාව මාස 9කට පස්සේ හරි විමර්ශනයක් ආරම්භ වීම ගැන අපි සතුටු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, leader of the National Freedom Front, Vimal Veeravansa, was summoned to the Tangol Crimes Investigation Division today to provide a statement regarding remarks he made about Beliatte Sana, who was arrested on drug-related charges.
The government has stated that the provincial council elections will be held next year. Now, according to the government, Parliament can decide whether the elections will be conducted under the old system or a new one.
It would be very good if it is also recommended by that commission when the provincial council elections will be held, because if not, the privilege of not having provincial councils for 18 years has also been granted to this commission.
මේ වරප්‍රසාදය මේ කොමිසමට ගිහිලා තිබෙනවා.
ඇතිවරණය පිළිබඳ නැති වෙලා තියෙන අර්බුදය කොමිසම් සභාවේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි.
The current crisis regarding elections is not a matter for the commission. It has been delayed because of what your government did while in power in parliament. And no, we have never postponed election. During our time, there were 3 elections. During our time, elections were held on time because elections were held very peacefully without any delays. Our commission has even gained international recognition.
ඉතාමත්ම සාමකාමීව මැතිවරණය තිබ්බ නිසා තමයි අපේ කාලෙම කොමිසම් සභාවත් ලෝකෙම ගෞරවයටත් පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
පළවෙනි කාරණාව තමයි ගරු විදේශ කටයුතු ඇමතුමා, why are you deceiving the world? You haven't said a word about the provincial council election in your statement. ගරු ජෙනීවා අගනුවර ගිහිල්ලා ඔබතුමා කියලා තියෙනවා delimitation process එක අවසන් කරලා පළාත් සභා
When I was in Geneva, in that statement I clearly stated that our stand about provincial council election.
So we want to know the status of that and a timeline of that.
Next year, yeah, there will be a provincial council election next year after having a good discussion regarding of the delimitation process and what is the system, whether can we go to a previous system or the new system. We can decide it. The parliament can decide it.
The General Secretary of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna clarified its stance regarding the provincial council elections.
Provincial council elections needs to be held. However, there is a major issue. The current demarcation boundaries prevent voting in certain areas. According to the new electoral system, the government intends to carry out a fresh demarcation. A committee has been appointed to begin the boundary demarcation process soon. Once the boundaries are finalized, public opinions are gathered and approvals are obtained. We will be able to hold the elections. It is unlikely to happen this year. Most likely, once the boundary demarcation process is completed next year, elections can be conducted by the end of next year, which we believe is feasible.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposits. Valuable FD, 10.25% for 15 months, 11% for 24 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Speaking in Parliament today, Minister of Justice Attorney Harshan Ananaikara elaborated on the rule of law that has been established in the country.
Now criminals are being arrested. They don't die. They are not taken to find weapons. They are revealing the names of politicians. Details of Tajuddin's murder is being revealed. Details of the Easter Sunday attack are being revealed. Back in the day, they used to nab and kill criminals because it is only then can the politicians stay safe. When we are arresting underworld criminals and seizing drugs, the group from Madhamulana are panicking. There are reasons for this, Honorable Chairman. Today they are attacking Ravi Senaviratna. They are attacking Ranga Disanayaka from the Bribery Commission. Why is this? We brought to this country something that wasn't there for a long time. That is the rule of law. Everyone is below the law. Now some people are saying, let me just say his name. They are saying Namal Rajapaksa is talking a lot and that he's not scared. I said that he has a right to speak. They said, look how he's speaking fearlessly. I said that people shout in profanity when they pass a cemetery, not because they are brave, but because they are scared. That is what I recall when I see Namal Rajapaksa. That's all right. You can continue to shout. We do not seek any political revenge.
The General Secretary of the Samiki Jana Balavege, Ranjit Madhuma Bandara, confirmed that the Working Committee of the SJP has approved the proposal to work together with the United National Party. A committee headed by Kabir Hashim has also been appointed to coordinate with the UNP.
The working committee of the Samagijana Balavegia convened today at their party office in Pitakotte.
They have already united at the ground level, so we decided to take this forward today. We propose for this to be coordinated by Khabir Hashim, Eran Vikramaratne, Mujibur Rahman and SM Marikar.
The AIA International Conference 2025 kicked off in Colombo today.
The American Institute of Architects International Conference 2025 commenced this morning in Colombo. Over 350 international delegates from around the world are expected to attend the event. The three-day conference, continuing on 11th and 12th of October, offers a platform to showcase business opportunities and innovations directly to regional architecture communities, allied professionals and design enthusiasts.
Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of a peace plan, paving the way for a possible end to the conflict in Gaza. According to foreign media, under the plan, Hamas will release the 20 living hostages it is still holding, while Israel will withdraw its troops to an agreed line and free nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees. World leaders, Palestinians and Israelis have welcomed the news, but details remain sparse, and crucial further steps, such as who will govern Gaza, are still to be discussed. The long-awaited breakthrough raises hope for a lasting peace in a conflict that has lasted 2 years and 2 days and cost tens of thousands of lives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it was a great day for Israel and said he would convene his cabinet today to approve the agreement. If approved, a ceasefire will go into effect immediately after the meeting. According to a senior Palestinian official, Israel will allow 400 aid trucks to enter Gaza daily during the first 5 days, with the number to increase gradually in later stages. Hamas confirmed that the agreement included an Israeli withdrawal from parts of Gaza and the entry of aid into the Palestinian territory. It called on US President Donald Trump to ensure Israel complies. A senior White House official told foreign media that the withdrawal of Israeli troops would likely take less than 24 hours. Once that is complete, Hamas will have 72 hours to release the hostages the armed group took from Israel when it staged its 7th of October 2023 attack, who are still in Gaza. Hostages could be released as soon as Monday, according to Trump, who was the first to announce that an agreement had been reached. What Hamas and Israel have agreed to following 3 days of indirect talks in Egypt is largely the first portion of a 20-point peace plan Trump proposed at the end of September.
Sir Keir Starmer has met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his first visit to the country.
The two leaders met in India's financial capital Mumbai, where the Prime Minister is on a 2-day trade mission with the largest ever delegation of more than 100 CEOs, entrepreneurs, university vice-chancellors and cultural leaders. Modi has called the visit historic, with the two sides meeting to discuss ways to expand business and trade ties after India and the United Kingdom signed a landmark trade deal in July. On Thursday, Sir Keir Starmer announced that more UK universities would be opening campuses in India, which the government said would bring a £50 million boost to the economy. Confirming that the University of Lancaster and the University of Surrey had been given approval for new campuses, he said, quote, "I'm delighted that more Indian students will be able to benefit from a world-class British education in the near future, strengthening the ties between our two countries while pumping millions back into our economy and supporting jobs at home." End quote. The United Kingdom has a growing network of international campuses in India, with the University of York, University of Aberdeen and Queen's University Belfast among those expected to open campuses from as early as next year. The Prime Minister has been given a rousing welcome in India, with thousands of photos of him and Modi lining parts of Mumbai that the two leaders will travel through today. On his first day, Sir Keir Starmer met the founder of India's digital ID system, Nandan Nilekani, in the wake of plans to introduce a digital ID for people working in the United Kingdom. The government's plan to introduce compulsory digital ID for people to prove their right to work in the United Kingdom has seen more than 2.8 million people signing a petition against the idea. Sir Keir Starmer also announced that 3 Bollywood films will be made in the United Kingdom by Yash Raj Films from 2026, ending an 8-year hiatus. The government says the yet-to-be-implemented UK-India trade deal has already led to £1 billion of investment and almost 7,000 jobs being created in the United Kingdom. Under the trade deal, India's average tariff on UK products will drop from 15% to 3%. The United Kingdom will cut taxes on Indian clothing, footwear, jewellery and frozen seafood, among other goods, while India will reduce duties on the import of several liquor items, cosmetics, medical devices and luxury cars. The deal is touted to increase the United Kingdom's gross domestic product by £4.8 billion each year and boost trade between the two countries by an additional £25.5 billion a year by 2014. Last year, trade between the United Kingdom and India totalled £42.6 billion and was already scheduled to grow. Before arriving in India, Sir Keir Starmer told reporters that the UK would not relax visa rules for India, but added that there were massive opportunities to improve trade and cultural ties with India. Sir Keir Starmer's visit comes against a backdrop of strained ties between Delhi and Washington over US President Donald Trump's decision to impose 50% tariffs on India, which includes a 25% penalty for buying Russian oil. India and the United States have been negotiating a trade deal for months, but have not made a major breakthrough yet. The 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup match between India and South Africa is currently underway in Visakhapatnam. Now, batting first, the Indian team posted 251 runs at the end of 49.5 overs. Now, chasing a target of 252 runs, the South African team is currently on 98 runs for the loss of 5 wickets at the end of 25.5 overs. Now, all matches of the tournament can be watched live on TV1 and online at www.sirasatv.lk, as the Sirasa Media Network holds the official local broadcasting rights. Now, in more sports news, the Karma Fight League, South Asia's largest K1 fight league, will take place in Colombo this Saturday. Today, a face-off event was held to introduce the participating fighters.
Over 50,000 fighters have registered to compete in this year's KFL. The tournament will feature a range of combat sports including karate, Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Maharaja Media Network, which plays a major role in the development of the local sports industry, is providing media support for the league to promote emerging sports. 20 fighters participated in today's face-off event. The main bout of next Saturday's KFL will feature Sylvester Silva and Shrimal Rodrigo competing in the open weight division. Unbeaten kickboxing fighter Nimesha Kumari will face a competitor from Pakistan.
Come, witness, see what's going on. We got some of the best fighters from around the region. We got Indians, we got Pakistan, we got Malaysians, and of course our own pride, the best of Sri Lanka. 10 bouts, including 2 bouts, that is for the Extreme Championship. 4 of them will compete for a place in the final in the next edition as well. Above all, our champion in the open weight, Sylvester Silva versus Shrimal. This is going to be a fight for the ages.
The event will also include the final 2 preliminary bouts of the Extreme Championship, along with several matches featuring fighters from India, Pakistan and Malaysia.
Sri Lanka's football team defeated Turkmenistan at the Colombo Racecourse in the 2027 AFC Asian Cup qualification today. During the first half of the match, neither team managed to score. In the 67th minute, Sri Lanka found the breakthrough with the winning goal. Turkmenistan was unable to equalize in that half, and the match ended 1-0 in favor of Sri Lanka, giving them the victory. The second leg between the two teams will take place on the 14th of October in Turkmenistan.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. I am Hashni Patirana.
And I'm Stellin Machado.
Thank you for watching. Good night.